What is up, dweebs? Kev here with my good friend James. You might know him if you have been watching our Han Shot First podcast here on Dweeb. James is here with me to talk Marvel tonight.
buddy.
James, how are you, sir?
Good, Kev. How you doing, my friend?
I am feeling good. I am, for the first time in a while, although it was short-lived, I am feeling very positively
We
about
are.
the state of the MCU, despite whatever might have happened in that Marvel's movie that I have yet to watch.
Yeah, neither of us have seen this, but we know we've both seen the reviews and the box office bomb and all the above. Not seen it. Have not seen it.
They gave us hope for like 3 whole days, I think.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, here's the season finale of Loki, and then
poof.
Also this.
Yep.
So
Yikes.
So
that's not what we're here for tonight.
Yeah, and forgive my optimism. Despite whatever may have happened in that movie, for me, James, the season 2 run of Loki matched season 1.
Very good.
Although it was timed in a way that made me feel like, okay, I'm actually feeling good about the potential story that could be weaved in the next phase of the MCU. Because this, you Han Shot First fans know this, and James knows it all too well. My biggest complaint is filler stories. And I kind of feel like we just went through like several years of just filler stories to wait to get ready for the next big MCU storyline, whatever it's going to be. And we hope, at least I hope, it's going to be Kang. And if so, I thought this show did a great job of it. But James, before we get into all that, what's your first take, general thoughts? Loki season 2. We've never talked about season 1 before, so feel free.
Yeah, let's post this before this began, before we joined forces, actually, before we start doing any shows together.
That's right.
I'm a lot like you on the front of post Endgame. The MCU's really, it doesn't have a cohesive direction, and there's bits and pieces that are good. Like the new Spider-Man movie where they brought them all back was fantastic. I think it's the best of anything post. I will say I have not seen the new Guardians movie. I keep forgetting it's on Disney Plus. It's my own fault. You've told me to watch it a billion times.
That's fine. It gives us a reason to review it. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like and subscribe.
Critical show. Bring the critical back. I liked Moon Knight, which is a one-off. Not kind of its own thing, which is fun. But then there's a lot of like the Kamala Khan show. I told you I've watched a little bit of, and I have not finished it. It's just not. I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's not my cup of tea. Really, it's not for me.
It's perfectly fair for there to be stuff geared
not saying
towards
it's bad,
teens
just
and
not,
children, right? In the MCU, it's not all going to be for adults.
Yeah. She-Hulk, I thought was hit or miss.
Agreed.
Some good, some bad. The introduction of Daredevil was probably my favorite part of it. 'Cause I'm a huge Daredevil guy, and it's really lacked direction. So I think the Loki both seasons are outside. Like I would put them up there. I think the Spider-Man movie is my favorite of the post Endgame MCU stuff, but Loki season 1 and 2 is really good. I think 2 it's a lot of fun. Like it's wrote really well. Tom Hiddleston's fantastic. Like there's just no getting around that. He owns that role. What is he, 13, 14 years into it now? Which is wild.
Good. Yeah, which probably helps at making it so good, right? When you've played a role for that long.
He is Loki. And I came out of it like, damn, like I might like this variant version better than I like the MCU Prime version.
You almost forget that he's not the main MCU Loki, right? You're like, oh, I root for this guy. This guy's good.
Like it's crazy. They end up kind of in similar places, but his guy gets his regular life cut short, and you kind of forget about it. I really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of some of the new characters. I love Mobius is obviously fan favorite. He's awesome. OB is awesome.
Short round.
Awesome. It's great. I really enjoyed it.
I did as well. Yeah, I mean, love the Owen Wilson.
He's
I
so
love
good.
the job he's done as Mobius. I didn't realize actually, someone else had to tell me that OB, that's the same actor that played Short Round as a child in Indiana Jones.
I would have
That's
had no really
mm-hmm.
no
Yep,
clue.
same
No idea.
person. Yeah, blew my mind. It's like, oh, and then once you hear it and you think we're all gonna die, and you think about the energy
Hmm.
that he plays, it's like, oh, now I see it.
I had no idea.
I never would
Mhm.
have thought, 40 years later, here we are. But yeah, I thought there were some great additional characters. They also did a good job of having real stakes.
Mhm.
Not
Yes.
all of those characters are getting a happy ending, I really liked it when you talk about post Endgame. I agree. For me, it's I'd have to go back and watch season 1, so forgive the recency bias, but
Hmm.
I've had like Loki season 2, Loki season 1, WandaVision, but even
WandaVision I really liked until it got normal, which is
right, yeah, I was just about to say
like
the first half of WandaVision
the
really
first, like,
like.
because that's the first post, right? That was the first thing that came after. Like those first couple episodes where they're the throwback sitcoms, like the 60s, 70s, 80s, is wild. And you're like, whoa, where are we going, folks? And then it got normal.
And then it just got normal, and
And
then
there's the weird Evan Peters
oh,
throwaway, like
yeah, Ralph Boner or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
a boner joke in the MCU where he should have been playing Quicksilver, who they had just bought. It's yeah.
That was a show where the theory crafting was more fun than what really came out, to be
That would have
honest.
been a fun week to week one.
It was all the
Yeah,
Mephisto rumors and all
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
that one was
He's nowhere.
a great week. I do look forward to the next Marvel show that we can week to week here on
Hmm.
Dweeb. Hopefully it's something
Strike's
that
over. It's gonna happen.
it's going to happen soon. But yeah, and that's speaking of strikes, although it wasn't a strike that caused it, it was the pandemic. It's worth noting that the scheduling for these shows and movies got thrown all out of whack because
Hmm.
of COVID. And, so much so to the point that I believe Doctor Strange was meant to come out before WandaVision, which would explain the complete disregard to Wanda's character arc
Hmm.
in that show. You watch WandaVision and then you watch Doctor Strange and you're like, what was the whole point of the show if she didn't learn the lesson that you saw her learn that lesson
Hmm.
in the show? And then but no, we just and
Yeah.
Elizabeth Olsen, I believe, even touched on that at some point in an interview, stating that the directors of Doctor Strange, because Marvel is so concerned with leaks, they don't let
Hmm.
showrunners or movie producers or even directors and writers of material that is tied together. They aren't allowed to know what the other person is doing, which let me give you guys a nickel's worth of free advice. If you're going to connect a universe, you're
Between
gonna
that
have
many TV shows, movies, shit. Come on.
you're gonna have to risk some leaks. And as a again, maybe this is different because I am a wrestling fan. I grew up one of my favorite things growing up at 9 years old, much like Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. It was ruined for me very early. Oh, hey, this isn't real. All right.
Hmm.
I might find out what's going to happen before it happens. Like, I'm not one who would say, oh my God, someone leaked your script, change the whole script. No, just put your movie out. Leaks are
Yeah,
part of it. It
it
just will build
happens.
hype.
Hate it, but it happens.
Exactly. You don't want to see it happen, but you can't try to build this ridiculous failsafe for something that's inevitable anyway. And then it just turns into your connected universe is very
Hmm.
disjointed.
I think
Uh,
that's changing because they revamped the production of how they're doing shows now, and they're doing they're going to traditional showrunners as the way TV shows are done. So I think that's going to change quite a bit because they
very
struggled. The shows have struggled, man. The shows have been quality has been all over the place with the Marvel shows so far.
And some of it has been budgeting because what was it, Secret Invasion? It was such a
Oh
forgettable show.
God!
I have a hard time remembering the name. That was one of the best
Oh,
comic book runs that
it's
Marvel can
ever
point to.
had, and they did like what they did for that, and oh.
So
I
disappointing. That was a
forgot
storyline
about
that needed a
that.
budget. It needed time. You cannot do Secret Invasion in 6
Yeah.
episodes. You can't do it. And it's a disservice to the people that liked it. And
Yeah, the
you're
show
not
is
going to win new
bad.
fans with something like that.
I completely forgot. It was so forgettable.
That's the worst thing it could be. You know, people dog on She-Hulk, and while it may have had the worst finale of any season,
This is not forgettable.
of anything I've ever seen, it's not forgettable. That's
Yep.
the worst thing you can be. It's like lukewarm, right? It's
Yes.
just like, that's the worst thing. You gotta be hot or be cold, but just don't
Yeah.
be.
Oh man, I just completely forgot about that. I really did.
It was not worth remembering. Unlike this second season of Loki,
Very good.
mean, there was so much, so many callbacks, so much to really unpack and look into this whole thing. It goes full circle, even with the title of the final episode being A Glorious Purpose.
That's cool throwback, callback. It's pretty cool.
And he finally gets that glorious purpose. If you think about, I can't remember if it's Thor 2, one of the Thor movies where Odin says all of this because Loki wants a throne. And that version of Loki says, it's my birthright. And for us to get to a point where Loki, after all that time slipping, after centuries of studying physics just so he can solve one problem and save a bunch of other people's lives, he goes back to talk to Sylvie and says, the last thing I want is a throne. And unlike in season 1, this time, I think at least, you definitely believe him, right? That's the last thing that he wants. He's actually learned his lesson. He's grown as a character. And what happens in order for him to take on the great burden, spoiler alert, and give up what he has already said in the season was his ultimate goal, which was just being with his friends. He has to give that up, and then he gets his throne, the thing that he always wanted. But this time it's more of a burden, and it's no throne of gold. You know, it's just this half-ass broken chair that will allow all of these branches of the timeline to connect to him still. But yeah, it was just, we say this a lot on Han Shot First. It's sort of like poetry in that they rhyme.
This scene was heartbreaking, man. When he's like sitting, he's just by himself, and he's got all the streams coming through him. I'm like, he's a character that, like, he's never wanted really anything other than power and a throne. He wanted to be the king of Asgard. He was for a little bit. That is, I guess, different version of him, but man, like when he talks about the only thing I want to do is be with my friends and stuff, it's just like heartbreaking. Then to see that at the very end, and to see, you know, Mobius is looking on his life, Sylvie is doing what she's doing, and you're like, oh my god, this sucks. Like, damn.
And the only way, they can have any of it is for him to sit there. And I love the imagery and how they tied the whole multiverse into Nordic mythology. With the Tree of Life and how it once again maybe leads to the whole thing still being an Ouroboros, right? Because technically, with him forming that Tree of Life, becoming the, you know, the god of stories, he's essentially just fulfilling that old Ragnarok destiny all over.
Yeah, is he? Yeah. It's absolutely. I've used the Ouroboros reference more in my life in the last 2 months than I had ever. I talk about it all the time. I bring it up in conversation all the time with just the snake eating its own tail. It's Ouroboros. I'm like, you know exactly where that came from, you nerd.
Right? Yeah, and which is what I love as a kid who grew up a history nerd. Now, I was more in tune early on in life with Greek mythology, Greek and Roman mythology. But then, you know, of course, the next step from there, if you are into that the way that I was, is like, oh, you're going to go into Norse mythology next because there's another one to learn about. And there's some similarities there. So with all of that stuff, it's just phenomenal because it's not necessarily something that you have to do, especially with this, you know, because Thor not Loki, but his brother is
Never
one
heard
of
of
the
him.
few. Like Thor's a DC character too because he's
Public
public
domain.
domain, right? Being a Greek god or being a Nordic god will do that to you. You'll
Hmm.
be public. You'll be
Maybe
public
you'll be
domain.
public domain someday, Kev. Maybe you'll make it into TV shows.
Between you, me, and Danny at the Clout Route, we've got that bald beard guy.
Oh yeah,
At
we
some
gotta.
point,
They're gonna
yeah,
take one of us, right? Like we're cornering that market.
exactly. There can only be so many. It's like a
There can only
Highlander
be one.
situation. And there can only be one He Who Remains or Kang, which is what's interesting to me about the way this series wraps up is we can't look at it without knowing what's going on behind the scenes, which is, of course,
Yep.
Jonathan Majors was accused of some awful things.
Yep.
It was then found that it really looks like those were false accusations, and then there came another situation where now once again it looks like Jonathan Majors is going to have to go to court and deal with a personal situation. So the one thing that with the way this Loki series ends, you could technically, if you had to write out Kang, you could just say, oh, well, Loki and the TVA succeeded in their goal. However, what I think they are currently building to is that this is manageable for the time being, but it's that Ouroboros, that this was still part of He Who Remains' bigger trap of, oh yeah, well, you'll manage these. You won't be willing to keep it to only one timeline, so you will set it up so all these different variants can live. They will start the multiversal war, and we will still get to Kang, Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and Secret Wars.
There's a good reference at places where this show is, because there's kind of been a little debate when they talk about the Earth 616 variant, and but they've already taken care of it, and they're like, all right, we're good, we don't have to worry about it. It doesn't know we exist. That's Ant-Man in the newest Ant-Man movie. That's Kang the Conqueror. So that is at the tail end of the Loki show. So that's kind of places where we're sitting. I love the return of He Who Remains. I loved it. It's like that scene where he gets his little thing out, shoots Sylvie away, and they sit there and have a conversation. He's like, who do you think gave you those powers? And they're talking, and I'm like, this is like, he jumps right back into that He Who Remains role. It's so good.
It was good. And he said, I thought you would have learned how to pause time by now. And what I loved even more is once Loki is like, what makes you think this is the first time we've had this conversation? Then He Who Remains sort of drops the act, right? If you go back to season one, he's very impish, he's kind of like an old school. It reminded me of a bard out of Skyrim, honestly, the way he was kind of presenting himself. But then once they start talking about the scaling problem, it's almost as if that's just Jonathan Majors. Like that's a completely different version that he's almost as if the He Who Remains was a character that this Kang variant was playing
when they showed up.
Yeah, exactly. And in that moment, it was like, okay, you finally learned enough. We're going to cut through all the frills and lace, all the bullshit. This is just what in the comic books was Nathaniel Richards, whoever, Victor Timely, however you want to call it. Yeah. This is just man to man. The act is up at this point. This is just me talking to you. And I like that layer too, because now we've seen He Who Remains Kang. We've seen Kang the Conqueror Kang. We've seen Victor Timely, which I also loved him doing that.
Timely, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's, if he did something bad in his personal life, that's unfortunate, and absolutely learn from DC's mistake. Don't just keep him in there for the sake of keeping him in there. Just move on, especially with a character like Kang. There's never been an easier character to rewrite. If you were able to write in Don Cheadle as the new War Machine, you should be able to replace this character. Yeah,
I think they've pinned a lot on Jonathan Major's shoulders after the first season, and I think there's a a little bit of difference between this and the DC situation, which I can't think of his name. Who gives
Ezra
a shit?
Miller.
Ezra
Yeah.
Miller. He had so much stuff going on. And his is good. Lord, his is bad. Like, not saying Jonathan Majors' accusations aren't bad. The Ezra Miller stuff is.
There just aren't as many.
Wild. And like you said, it came out that the one sounded like it wasn't true. There's some other stuff. So I still will stand by the innocent until proven guilty. I know society's changed.
I agree with you. Yep.
But I think you're all right for now. You've got a little time here. It would be very awkward to. Yes, you could easily recast him, rat him out, however you want to do it. I think they pinned a lot on him, so we'll see how it goes. I think they're going to move forward with him, but also you don't know. Do you know what's next? Any idea? The strike kind of messed a lot of shit up.
Yeah, I really don't know what's next. As far as the storyline goes, taking out, again, assuming innocent until proven guilty, I really hope they are able to see this storyline through, because we've got some other things to talk about, some other seeds that have been planted that would be really great for this storyline. But as far as I know, the original plan was, I think the next Avengers movie was going to be called the Kang Dynasty.
Yes.
So obviously they were planning on building him up as the next Thanos, with, I think, Secret Wars being after that, which
it was really weird because they were really close to each other. I think they pushed Secret Wars back though.
Which is interesting because the way I understood it, they were going to have Kang play the Doctor Doom role in Secret Wars.
Oh, really?
And have it be Kang, but by giving more time in between the two, I think then you can go to something different and then maybe go back to it being Victor Von Doom, because now that they have the rights to those characters, I agree with you.
Secret Wars storyline, the newest, like there's two of them. The one that I think they're building on is the new one, where it's like Battle World and stuff.
Yes.
You could do so many cool variant versions of characters. Like, give it to me.
While bringing back all the old ones that you want, like whatever actors from X-Men you want to pull back, it's easy to do that. I mean, hell, I doubt Wesley Snipes could pull off being Blade anymore, but you
could get an older version of him, the variant version. The variant's such a good idea.
Yeah, you can do just so much with that, and I think that was the original plan. And the great thing about adding more time between Kang Dynasty and that is that you have more time to introduce Victor Von Doom in other projects, maybe that first Fantastic Four movie, whatever it is, and tie those in then. So that will be interesting.
I've got the lineup here in front of, if you kind of want to just zip through.
Yeah, let's do it.
Talking about it. So this is from the Hollywood Reporter. It's got them all in line here. When was this posted? Is there anything changed? I want to make sure I got it says today, so we'll see. Loki, then it was the Marvels, which came out this weekend, which neither have seen. Echo is the next show. It's in January.
Oh yeah.
So Echo's the next one, which new trailer just released for that. Deadpool 3 is after that. And
big multiverse stuff. Yeah, I mean, Mobius is reported to be in that movie.
Something goes on, and I kind of caught something I didn't need to see on a spoiler front from Marvel's.
Oh, no.
The Marvel's movie that opens up the possibility of how Deadpool in the Wolverine's going to happen. So that kind of sucked, but it wasn't bad. I kind of know. So the rumor, this is saying May 3rd, 2024. I know he tweeted something out the other day. Did you see it?
Who, Ryan Reynolds? I didn't see it.
Let me pull it up. I think it's worth pulling up here. Give me 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it was the actual date.
Look forward to that.
That movie's. That is the next one I'm very excited for. Like, I will be in theaters for that one.
Because no matter your thoughts on those original X-Men movies or even the Days of Future Past era, I think everyone
enjoy the Days of Future Past era.
Hugh Jackman was a great Wolverine. I'm hard pressed to think of someone I think would fit the role better. I'm sure. I mean, because we need to. after this movie, especially.
Yeah, I'm
It's
glad he's
time to
coming back
recast
for
the
one
role,
more, but like
yeah.
we do have to recast. Like somebody has to take that role. Wolverine's too important of a character to not.
And of all the things, they better not retcon that Logan ending like that.
No, I think it's
they need to stay away
you
from
can't.
that.
I think it's going to be a variant version.
Yeah, with the yellow suit and everything. It needs to be.
I can't.
July 26th, huh?
That's,
okay.
Why is it? There we go.
Is that Van City Reynolds though?
Yep, that's.
Oh, it is.
Reynolds.
Yep, that's the one.
Deadpool 3, July 26th.
Boom, shakalaka.
So
can't wait for that.
Announced the date of Deadpool 3. So this says that what the article I was reading said May, which I'll just pull. Let's just go. Just keep this posted and go through it right here. So it's wrong.
A summer blockbuster, regardless. Which.
Yep. So
Very
that's in
exciting.
July. That'll be a monster for him. Go down here, Captain America: Brave New World. See, this
which is
date
under
will be
massive.
right.
Yeah, I don't think that date's going to be
That date's
whatever
not
date they
gonna-
have. Push it back because the original screenings of that got horrible
They're struggling
feedback,
right now,
and
man.
they
They're
are
struggling.
they're doing major reshoots to that movie.
Yeah, they're struggling with a lot of stuff right now, so that's going to be bumped, or at least back.
There's a reason they're talking about trying to re-sign the original Avengers crew.
I don't. I hope
Which is a
they
bad
don't.
idea.
But man, yeah, like I don't want them to. But man, I understand what's going on. I could see this being a Halloween release.
Agatha will be great. I believe
she's
Aubrey
awesome.
Plaza is going to have a role in that.
Ooh, that's fun. That's fun.
And yeah, I agree with you. Sometimes you just have to weather a tough time. The worst thing they could do is nostalgia bait this quickly.
Yeah, don't
you're not far enough
man.
removed from that original trilogy to already, or not a trilogy, but from that original saga. You're not far enough removed to start milking the nostalgia.
Iron Man goes, the way Captain America goes out, like leave it. Don't touch it. Just leave it.
Yep.
Don't touch it.
Take a chance. Hire some real creatives. That's the problem when you get too many suits involved, and all they can see is the bottom line, and they're like, "Well, if we
guess
put
what?
Chris."
The bottom line for Marvels was terrible, and it's their fault.
Yeah, which. Yeah, maybe focus on some new characters instead of trying to. Well, I don't know why they would try. Like, oh yeah, the Captain Marvel, that thing went so well the first time. Let's force that character down your throat again. But hey,
it's such an interesting thing. I don't, because Monica Rambeau, a main character, is not necessarily a throwaway character in WandaVision, but she's not. She's a major character, but not one of these. She's a supporting role. All of a sudden, she's got a main one. Kamala Khan obviously had her own show. I don't know, man. Like the marketing's been goofy for it. And then I've read middling reviews. It's just okay. So it's the worst. It's the biggest bomb they've had so far. Just great.
Just so unfortunate with the timing because it happened days after one of their best series wraps, and even the viewership on that is down.
Yep.
Which I think is maybe because the plot was a little too complicated for the casual viewer. Time travel,
complex,
takes some understanding. So if you're not willing to watch some ending explain videos at the very least, you might not have a good time because it confuses you.
Exactly. I guess it is worth noting that a lot of these shows and movies dates could change because of the strike. Who knows exactly where they were on these. Thunderbolts is one that I'm very lukewarm on. I think it's got a lot of interesting B-level characters, which if you get the right director and creative team, it's the type of movie that could blow up and do a lot of things. Kind of like the original Iron Man was a B-level character. Jon Favreau, Robert Downey Jr. Poof. Here we are.
Exactly. Yeah. There's opportunity with some of those characters, but
very lukewarm for me right now. Blade is having all kinds of troubles right now. I think they finally got the director nailed down. Mahershala Ali almost left the project. Like, it's a mess.
That's bad because that's the only thing they had going for him. Was that's a casting awesome. That's a fan casting that everyone wanted. That'd be like if you know, if we found out that John Krasinski really signed on
So
to
yeah,
be Reed Richards, you
yep.
know, people would be, that was basically the equivalent, right? Like that was the one guy that a lot of fans agreed with,
Hmm.
like, oh, he'd be a great Blade. So to lose that would say a lot, honestly,
Yes.
because yeah, this one has been in production hell for quite
Hell,
some
like
time.
multiple directors. Like again, people, too many people get involved. Hopefully, I hope this one works out and is really good. I hope so.
So do I, because Blade's an
I want it
unsung
to be good.
hero of the MCU. You know, Wesley Snipes, we can make tons of jokes about his tax evasion habits and all that
Hmm.
good stuff,
He's a
and they'd be
great Blade.
warranted. But yeah, those Blade movies, that was at a time when comic book movies weren't
Hmm.
doing super well. You know, Spider-Man gets most, Sam Raimi, Spider-Man gets most of the credit, but this happened right around the same time.
Yep.
And meanwhile, DC was churning out hour and a half uh, action figure infomercials, you
Yep.
know, and
Yeah.
so the reason we have all that we have now, you know, Wesley Snipes and Blade, they deserve a lot of credit for that, because
Hmm.
a lot of people didn't even know that those were comic book movies,
Yep.
and they got popular
The
on their
opening
own.
scene of the first one's really awesome, where they're in the dance. What do you, the rave? There you go. That's what we're looking in the rave, and
The
he's
blood
taking,
rave.
yeah, the blood rave. That's pretty cool. And then you got the Fantastic Four, which we're all very excited for. No casting news on that front yet. Kang Dynasty, here you go. This is May 1st, 2026. Avengers Secret Wars was moved to 2027. They were originally 6 months apart. It was really weird. It was
That's
a really
bold,
weird
man.
thing. Like, give them time to breathe, you know, going from one, this a major, both major storylines. You know, that's the multiversal war. And then this is Battle World. Like
That's
let's
like,
let these breathe.
yeah, that's crazy. Like you only see release schedules like that usually with like horror franchises. If they have
Mm,
one they want to release, like we'll get a summer blockbuster out, or we'll get something
yeah.
like very early summer, and then we'll hit you again at Halloween.
Yeah, so weird. Like, I would be cool if there was a 2 year gap and you used some shows or some other movies to fill in, like, because Secret Wars in the comic, they all lose their minds are wiped, so they don't even know who they are anymore. Like, there's a Thor corpse working for Doctor Doom as his personal bodyguard. Like, there's all kinds of wild, crazy shit. Like, let it happen. Like, let it breathe.
Yeah, give it time. It's something that does take a lot of time to build. I
The
agree with that.
possibilities to me, I'm like, you could bring all the Spider-Man back. You could bring Miles Morales into it. You were talking about bringing Wesley Snipes back as a Blade mentor. Like, you can do all kinds of weird shit with the variants in that, because they're all brought to one place.
Yeah, and by all means learn, you know,
You got to build
don't.
up Doctor Doom too. You got to give him time if he's the guy.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to establish that, build up some time, and yeah, don't just throw this
But
stuff
maybe he's
together and try
not.
to
Like,
hastily be like, "Oh, hey,
you're
here's the new big bad."
you're going from this to that. Maybe he's not. Maybe it's Kang the whole time. Doctor Doom's a major character to just, you know, throw
That
like
release
really.
schedule is why I think it is Kang taking the
Yeah.
Doctor Doom role in Secret Wars. Otherwise, it's sort of, because well, and admittedly, it's kind of using the Thanos era to try to build out what I think they will do, because I, is Kang, who would Kang be the Ultron for? And even then,
Mhm.
like, Kang has been the one through multiple IPs we've seen him mentioned, just like
Mhm.
Thanos in the first, where it was like, okay, maybe with Thanos he was just in some post-credit scenes,
Yep.
stuff like that, but still, it seems like Kang is the big bad that we're building towards. So it does feel like it would be weird to have Kang Dynasty, and then
Mhm.
it almost feel
Doc,
like you're Count Dookuing the situation. Like,
yeah.
oh yeah, and then there's gonna be some
Mm.
new big bad for this
And the
next one. We're
separatist
gonna,
movement.
yeah, right. Just and in the 20 years between then, some crazy shit happened, and
Yep.
now it's Doctor Doom.
You're right.
So I agree with you. I think if they do make that Doom switch, that Secret Wars movie is gonna get pushed way back.
Yeah, I think so too. And then after that, you've got Ironheart, which I don't think there's been any update on that. And then Daredevil, which is going through huge problems right now, changing directors, writers. He did film stuff, and after going through the strike, they came out on the other end going, "This isn't it." The rumor was he doesn't even don the suit until episode 3.
Why?
Yeah. Sounds like they're going to do mega reshoots, rewrites, and I'm okay. Like, we got to fit. Like,
Yeah,
I don't. In my opinion,
definitely rewrite that.
You can correct me if I'm wrong. This show needs to be very similar to the Netflix show.
I agree with you, and I think that's the problem. I think that's the tone wasn't the same. I think, and the image that they're using in the article perfectly encapsulates the issue. The Daredevil we saw in She-Hulk is not at all the Daredevil that was established, and you had it played by the same guy.
If you're going to bring him back, you have to do it that way. Like, it's just because they haven't declared that he's a different person or anything. Like, if you bring him back and you say, "Hey, this is a variant version," cool. Like, that's not what I'm expecting. But they have been really tiptoey around all of that with him and Kingpin. And Kingpin's got looks like some super strength, but you're kind of like, you know what? That's okay. Like, I can see that. Like, it's kind of not that far of a push to like push him more into that territory to use him bigger. But I'm okay with some of the changes, but it is not the Daredevil we know.
Agreed. And I think that's the issue with the reshoots is you've probably got half of the people saying this needs to be the Netflix show, and the other half saying, no, we need to get more kids into the Daredevil.
Nah, man, Daredevil's dark. Like, he's dark.
Exactly. Time and a place, man. It's okay to make some of this.
It's the MCU. Yeah. It's this big, dude. It doesn't all have to be the same.
Put a kid-friendly Daredevil in one of the cartoons that you make. You know, I don't understand. Exactly. Not everything has to be attached to the MCU, or you know, because you have this great big retcon device called the multiverse that you've created. So
yeah, you've literally given yourself the retcon device. It's not rocket science, man.
Do all that crazy shit in the kids cartoons where you can get away with it because they aren't paying nearly enough. They aren't watching lore videos to make sure all of the loose ends tie up. You know, get wild there, but you know, don't be afraid to do adult. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you want to, these companies want to milk that nostalgia while at the same time being afraid to just own it and saying, we're going to make a show for you, the person between 30 and 50 years old.
We brought Charlie Cox back for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to bring John Barenthal back to play a PG version of the Punisher?
He's in
Why? You're right, but like, are you going to bring him back to be some soft, lightened, colorful version of the Punisher? No. If you're going to do that, you probably would have called Thomas Jane.
Yeah.
Shout out Tom Jane. Love Tom Jane. Love the Mist.
Exactly. Like, let him be. Like, do right by the characters. Don't. And I think that's what they ran into. They absolutely ran into it with the production. They had the first 3 episodes done, and you're going to tell me he's not going to put a suit on until episode 3? Like,
what do you even do?
It better be a hell of a storyline, man.
It'd be like finding out the next Batman movie is going to be like, because that was my big knock on Batman Begins, and it took me a long time to come around on that movie, just because I don't care how well done the story is. The story's about Batman, and that story's been around for decades now. We all know how it begins. Please spare me. Don't spend an hour and a half on something that can be summarized in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
When 80 to 90% of the audience already knows that. It's one of those things if it's a new character, but I mean, come on. Are you really, is the next Superman story going to have to include him landing in a Nebraska field? And
whoa, don't shit on Nebraska, bro.
You know, it's like I don't need all of Smallville to take place in a movie for me to understand Superman. Like, come on, guy, like, get to it. You know,
we've seen enough in incursions is not the right word, but different. We've seen I'm struggling tonight.
Different
build up, the
iterations
early
of these
iterations
characters,
is what I'm
yeah.
looking for. Thank you. The different iterations. We've seen the story of them coming up. We've seen the upbringing of all these characters. We know you can. That's cool. Like you can. We know, just like the newest Batman movie does a real good job of. Guess what? You know, we're not going over his backstory again. Martha, his parents shot dead. Is who he is.
Exactly.
They throw us right in, man, and it's so good. Like you don't assume your audience knows what they're watching. Like they know the character. Give them a little credit.
Yeah, exactly. Trust the audience a little bit, and then you'll get credited as being this clever director, this clever writer, because you didn't spoon feed everybody everything.
Yeah. All right. Back to Loki, Kevin. We kind of went on a tirade there, which it's our show. Who cares?
Welcome to Dweeb.
Was this part of Kang's ultimate plan? Do you think? Do you think this was planned to set this in motion to hit the multiversal war to do it? Is this a planned deal? They talk a lot about free will in this show. What do you think?
I do, and we touched on that before, like with the behind the scenes, you know, how reality could impact the story, but everything as it stands today, I do believe that was the intention, that the intention was that Loki would save the day while also continuing. You know, if you go back to season 1, Sylvie asked Loki, and they call back to it at one point when he finally learns how to control his time slipping. Do you think what makes a Loki is that we're destined to lose?
Yep.
And I do think that it would be very much on theme for this to be yet another, or it's like an onion of Ouroboros, you know, just layer upon layer of snakes eating their own tail. And I do think that because not only in season 1 was it, hey, guess what? You're here because He Who Remains wants you to be here. Then you come to find out, oh, hey, Loki, this is all still part of my plan. I just wanted the men to be able to talk. I knew you wouldn't get it. You know, those women, they get hysterical. So I did this whole thing to have you time slip so you and I could talk. I would not be surprised if this was all once again something that He Who Remains saw coming at the end of time, and that Loki's desire to keep his friends alive and thus keep all of these timelines alive is because he talks about it. He Who Remains says, my variants are already out there. And the way that we now understand time, thanks to this show, lets you know that even though they aren't technically out there, they are out there at some point in time. And so I do think this was all part of the bigger plot. James, what are your thoughts?
I think so too. Now that you know that He Who Remains and Kang the Conqueror are two different variants. It was assumed that they were the same one. They are two different ones. So we know of three, right, with Victor Timely as well. And I guess the Council of Kangs, there's a ton of them, which I not fully fleshed out characters yet. I think so too. I think and this is kind of where you talk about the future plans of the MCU hurt. Like we know that there is a Kang Dynasty movie coming. Like that's the multiversal war. Like it is happening. Is He Who Remains going to come through that and save time, save the day, however you want to say it, you know? So yes, I think so.
And we're going to have that tragic ending, right? Where it's like the bad guy wins, but we all kind of are, well, yeah.
Yep.
If it weren't for the bad guy winning, we wouldn't have all of this that we've already had, right? It'd be a very interesting story to tell.
Yeah. I think it leads, there's a scene at the very end, and I caught this. It was Screen Crush's Easter egg article where I didn't catch this. So you get Ravonna Renslayer, and she's at the, I can remember correctly, it's the end of time. It's the lost cloud monster coming for her.
Alioth, yep.
Alioth, yes, there you go. Thank you. Looks like it's going to eat her. In the background, there's two very specific things. There is a pyramid, and there is a sphinx below it. I don't believe Ravonna is going to be dead, Kev. This is my 10 cents. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I think she survives, and I think she becomes the general for one Rama Tut.
Oh, I love it. Rama Tut. Yes. Now we can talk about some, speaking of the comic lore and the basis of this character. For those who don't know, in the comic storyline at one point, so that version of Kang the Conqueror was a descendant of Reed Richards, Nathaniel Richards, born in the year 3000 or and something, when Earth had no more disease, no more challenges whatsoever. So
Yep.
completely utopian society with all this advanced technology, and Nathaniel gets bored. And so he goes back in time with all of these super
Mhm.
weapons, and he becomes Rama Tut, and he rules Egypt with an iron fist with all of his advanced technology. And this is way back. Like we're talking, I wish
Yeah.
I have the reprint in another room. I actually have this
Really?
this,
I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, they reprinted this comic, the
Yeah.
original Rama Tut. I have it. And so the Fantastic Four at some point learns of this anomaly in history. They go back, they fight Rama Tut, and that's when
Mhm.
you find out Rama Tut is in fact Kang the Conqueror.
Yep.
So if and of course you see that's one of the three Kangs that have a speaking
Yes.
role in the Council of
So you
Kangs
have
scene.
seen him, correct? Yes, in the
Mhm.
Council of Kangs, you do see him. Yes.
So I tend to agree with that whole strategy. I have even seen some people say that yes, although it was a purple light, maybe it wasn't Eliath.
And
Maybe it
maybe
was the
it's
Kang. Maybe it's a Kang variant because Kang's colors are purple and green.
purple.
So
Yeah.
it's
Ooh, good one.
possible
I
that
do
what
like. I
she
like that one.
saw was Rama Tut instead of Oliath there. So I'm with you.
I like that. I think that's a great. I think you're right. I think that is absolutely what it is, and that's. I don't know when you would see him next, because it sounds like this. Are we both in agreement that we think this is it? This is a self-contained show, two seasons, and we're done.
I think it is done. I've heard rumors of a potential TVA spinoff. I think
Okay.
depending on what Deadpool 3 does, because as we mentioned, Mobius is rumored to be in Deadpool 3. Obviously,
Mhm.
Deadpool is a fourth wall breaking thing. So I could see the TVA playing a hand in the next Deadpool movie. And depending on how that goes, I could see a TVA spinoff being a thing, like because otherwise you're just done with Owen Wilson. You can keep
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston in this franchise, however, because remember he's a variant anyway. You've
Yeah.
already killed him before. You could find a way to bring him back.
Yep.
But these non-super Ravonna Renslayer, you could absolutely, because of her comic origin, she's
And
a superb being herself.
and
But
we think she's about to be the general for Ramatut in the multiversal war, so she's got a part to play. Like,
But
but you're
like
right. Like,
Mobius B-15,
because they're trying to.
how are
They're
you
now
gonna
behind the
fork those
scenes.
characters in if you
They
don't
talk
have a
about
TVA
they
show?
talk about not wanting to be seen, known about anymore. Like, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I'd be on board with an Adventures of the TVA.
But I do think in general that this show is done, that this was how it
Yeah.
was meant to end. Now, I could see the potential. A lot of people have brought up the theory that Loki's doing the Avenger Prime run, which for those of
So
you,
I
yeah, go
don't
ahead.
know. So you got to talk a little bit. So I know I've done a little research on the God of Stories. But can you explain Avenger Prime God of Stories? This is your territory.
Yeah, Avenger Prime is essentially, and it does have some parallels with this storyline. So imagine a Loki who is aware of the multiverse and sort of aware of his role to play, but also has that desire to be that god, has that desire to have a throne. So Avenger Prime is a
Mm-hmm.
storyline in which Loki essentially goes back in time and eliminates all the Avengers that defeat him,
Mm-hmm.
so he's not defeated anymore. And at the end of the day, it will come a time where he will realize that now he needs some help. And then as Avenger Prime, he shows up and goes back in time and grabs Avengers from the MCU. So that would be that's me
That's how they
taking
would
the comic book storyline and trying to
squishing it.
marry it with the MCU. But yeah,
Yeah.
Avenger Prime is essentially a time traveling a Loki at the end of time that is, Avenger Prime. He's
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate watchdog of the universe.
Yes.
So Loki has played the role of Avenger Prime in comics before. And if you were going to do that with this storyline, it would be something along those lines of, oh, okay, well, this Loki at the end of time now could very much in a what if scenario, like the Watcher did,
Mm-hmm.
go and grab different heroes from other points in the MCU. You know, folks like Robert Downey Jr., who maybe are looking for another payday, haven't had as much success in the post Marvel world maybe as you might have thought, and could easily just print money by going back to that
you
character.
print so much. I don't think I'd hate those characters coming back for Secret Wars if they do Battle World and you bring them back. And like I talked about, I don't know if you bring like a Robert Downey Jr. and a Chris Evans back. I don't want to see a variant version of them. I don't think. Like,
And
I want to see
it.
them.
At least Chris Evans, we've seen it.
Yeah,
we've seen him fight his own variant. You know.
Yes, exactly. I've also seen him in Knives Out, and he's an awesome villain, so I've seen it.
Yeah, right.
Like
I want to see Chris. I want to see them get real brave and cast Chris Evans as Flame On Johnny again.
Oh, bring him back as
before.
Yeah. That'd be funny. Very deep. How about that as a variant version of him in Battle World? That's wild. Him and Mike, you could get Michael B. Jordan did it too.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly. Get them all in there.
Been proven that given the resources and time, these screenwriters can write great characters in the past that were great. I'm specifically looking at Andrew Garfield's run as the Amazing Spider-Man. Very awesome Spider-Man, but not great movies, not very well wrote, and I think he's the star in his limited role in the newest Spider-Man movie. I think he's the best one of them. Tobey Maguire just jumps right back in as who he was. Like, he's perfect. Tom Holland's great, but Andrew Garfield was like given a new lease on life.
Exactly. And I do think, for what it's worth, I think one of the burdens of that movie was the fact that he was dating his co-star. I would love to see in a parallel universe if Andrew Garfield, if whoever played Gwen Stacy was not his real life girlfriend,
yes.
I think that movie might have gone a little bit better.
Yep.
Because the director, admittedly, they were dating, and they just let them act like a real couple. Well, you know what? That's not always what's best for a movie.
Yeah, it's not always what's best for TV, TV. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same reason they don't have screenwriting. Everybody wants realistic dialogue until you sit down and listen to two people talk for a long time, and you realize, a professional would do this better.
Yep. There's a lot of dumb things that get talked about.
A lot of ums and ers, and no, you don't want too much realism. So no. But I do agree that there is precedent there to not only revive older characters that didn't do so well, but look at Willem Dafoe and the Green Goblin. I mean, and what they did with Doc Ock. I know this is all in the same movie, but you can hire those writers.
I know it's easy to use that movie, but they like Sandman, Jamie Foxx. They rebuilt Jamie Foxx's character from the ground up. It can be done and done tastefully. But again, if we're gonna do Battle World and we're wiping minds, I want Chris Evans, I want Robert Downey Jr. playing mindless versions of themselves. And then
who plays Doctor Doom if we do have Doctor Doom? Are they gonna go back to the guy from Nip Tuck that played Doctor Doom the first time?
I don't. The thing with Doctor Doom is you're gonna need him for one movie. And then it's an accident that happens that ruins his face, right? That's why he wears a mask. Shouldn't it?
I think it might technically be. You could do it as it's the same thing that gives the Fantastic Four. You could have it happen at the same time.
The same event that gives them their powers.
The same event that gives the Fantastic Four.
Because him and Reed Richards are like best friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then something happens. So the question is, you've got to get an actor that can do that first part, but then can do it behind a mask.
I think you go and get a Skarsgård, right?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
because you technically with a Victor Von Doom, you kind of
give him the actual
European. Yeah, exactly. Give him somebody. Yeah. And it depends on. You can go the buff guy. You can go the buff Northman guy.
Yeah,
or
what's
you can
his?
go with his.
I don't ever remember his name.
I can't remember. Yeah. Because I want to say,
Let me look that up.
is Bill the other one? Who's the? Because you've
Cool.
got either it or you've got the buff jacked dude. Either one of them, I think,
Skarsgård family.
could bring a. I mean,
Well, you've got Stellan too. He's in
I'll say
Andor.
right. I was gonna say, then you got old man Skarsgård, who could
Oh
technically be a good Doctor Doom if he was an older Doctor Doom.
There are 8 Skarsgård kids. Let's do this.
Dude, prolific. Look at that, mom and dad.
Or Stellan the
good
dad.
Work. He might be the dad.
So Stellan is the dad. Yes, Stellan. Okay, so Stellan is the dad. There's 8 children: Alexander, Gustav, Sam, Bill, Eijh, Iha. I don't know how to say that.
It almost sounded like Elijah, but it's not.
Yeah, Eijh, Iha. I don't know.
Aya.
Walter, Ossian, and Kolbjorn. I do know how to say.
Oh my god, dude! They've got some legit names in
Stellan,
that family.
Yeah, Stellan's the dad. Alexander is the oldest son, born in 76. What is his movie? What was he in? Generation. He was in True Blood. Okay. Oh, he was probably a vampire in True Blood. That makes sense for him. Gustav Skarsgård. Let's see.
I think Bill is it, right? I just can't remember which one is
not really
the Northman.
Gustav, I know. Once I see his picture, I'm gonna have him because he looks like a bad dude.
Alexander.
Yeah, Sam Skarsgård. He doesn't look like he's anything of importance. Bill he's in something. What is he in? He's in some Netflix series. Hemlock Grove, Allegiant. Oh, he's in Deadpool 2. Hulu's Castle Rock.
Yeah, Alexander is in the Northman, by the way. He plays Hamlet.
Yes. Bill plays the villainous role opposite Keanu Reeves in John Wick Chapter 4. So there, I have not seen.
Yep. Nope, me either.
Lone daughter, Walter Skarsgård. Yeah, let's get down to Sion. Oh, he's young.
Soon to be Gunther. My wrestling fans get that reference.
Did I skip through him? Where's he at? Did I skip him? Bill? Sam? I think like they left one out. They did. How does that happen? Which one is it we decide it was?
Alex is played Amleth in the Northman.
Oh yeah, his oldest son.
That's the jacked dude.
Oh yeah. I just zoomed by him and was like that. He is. Let's see. Yes.
Not what I would envision as, Victor Von Doom. You think of as like the cerebral assassin, to quote Jim Ross. By God. But you could do it an imposing. It wouldn't hurt to have because you can write him to be smart. He's just an actor. He doesn't have to actually be smart.
We can just by your this is a Victor Von Doom look like type. Yeah. If you want to go the Nordic route, and then. Because he does a lot of acting in the Northman non-verbally.
Yes.
You have to be able to do that when they put this Victor Von Doom mask on.
Yep. And I do think he's got the skill. I think he's got the range to do it. So I think that could be great. And because you're going to need, especially if you have to hot route away from Kang, because whatever you think about Jonathan Majors, and you might not like the take of Victor Timely. Like, I have no choice but to give credit where it's due. Like, that dude has played 4 versions of the same character, if not more. And I understand that's not the same thing if you're doing Victor Von Doom, but if you're going to replace Kang with Victor, you need somebody just going to kill it, you know? Mm-hmm. And you can't, and unfortunately, with Marvel, it's tough because Marvel's the same franchise that took Christian Bale and somehow managed to water him down as a villain.
Oh man,
it's like, how could you not
got him in there? And
and that's what you do with it. Come on,
he's so badass.
Was there a villain that deserved more than one movie? It's the fucking God Killer. Sorry, we're an hour in.
Oh God, I forgot about that. Yeah, they botched him.
Hurts. It hurts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Taking all these great ideas that people spent months or years
Yep.
cultivating, and then you just here's 80 minutes of bullshit. Give me money.
The battle scene on the black and white planet is so awesome. So cool.
There are, yeah, exactly. Like there are cool scenes to it, and it's just like,
And they
oh,
just give him no backstory, like his daughter died.
like,
and
why
that
couldn't you
was
build
it.
up to this? Like, why,
It was,
why?
Oh man, you're right. I forgot about that.
Potential. All of the Thor movies. If there's one word I could use to describe them, it'd just be potential.
I stand by Ragnarok. I think Ragnarok's fantastic.
A lot of people love that one. Yeah,
I love that
fair.
one. That's the right term for Thor, comedic turn. It's very good. A lot of very well played people and characters in that one.
I do agree with that. That one, it was what was needed at the time.
Yes.
To have that sort of spirit to the movie. So
yes.
Yeah, I mean, so here we are. We're at an hour.
We talked about possibly making half an hour, and here we are, buddy.
I know we talked about a lot of other things, but I don't know. I had fun with it. I hope you guys did too, listening. James, is there anything else about Loki that you want to talk about before we wrap it up here, sir?
I don't think so. Clever play on episode 2's name's Breaking Brad. I thought that was funny.
I did love that. Oh yeah, the X5, the Zaniac reference. I love, we talked about that in the Star Wars show, how like the set designers, you could tell they were real Star Wars fans.
They're good with this.
You can tell that the writers and the team, like, they really care about these Easter eggs. They really care about laying these, because Zaniac is such a random character. Even your most diehard comic fans don't know who the fuck Zaniac is. So it just it's very, very cool the way in a multiverse driven show to do stuff like that. Very cool. Yeah,
it's I want to give it its props. It's got a lot of heart. It's got some faults. It's got some major overarching stories that are awesome. I think ultimately it's fun. It's got a lot of heart. Tom Hiddleston's awesome. It's funnier than it needs to be. It is actually the last episode when it flashes centuries later, and he's like going through. He's like, nope, yep, this did it. And he's like walking people around. Like it's a lot more fun than I thought it would. Like that's not a lot funnier than I thought it would be, and it's full of heart, man. I enjoyed it. It's very good.
And on that same note, a lot of attention to detail, right? Because so many of those jokes, they're very subtle. And they hit really well if you've been paying attention throughout the season. Like the thing, like at one point when he's going through all those centuries and you see skin written in the dust on the side of the computer, like you can just tell, like just so many. It's a show that is great about calling back onto itself, but also calling back to the greater MCU in general. So yeah, I think if it weren't for the Marvels coming out only 3 days later, my takeaway would have been, holy cow, my faith in the MCU has been restored. But
what bad timing, dude. What were they doing?
Man.
Again, give it time to breathe. Don't drop something else right on top of it.
Yeah, I think maybe they knew they didn't have something great, and so they thought, well, this will build us some momentum. Then we'll do another multiverse story. We'll make it so that this Marvels thing technically loosely ties in to this other stuff, and then people feel obligated to watch it.
I will watch it. I'm just not thrilled. I'll watch Guardians 3 first. Let's do that first.
Yeah, watch Guardians 3 first. We haven't talked about that on Dweeb yet.
Yeah, we've been only talking about doing that for 6 months.
We'll
get there. On me at this point.
We care a lot about putting out good content, which is a joke James will get after he's watched the movie.
Yep, I will. I'll try. I might be able to get it this weekend. I'll see if I can get it this weekend.
Ooh. Well, once he does, we will be here to talk about it. But James, where can the good folks find you when you aren't nerding it out here in Dweeb City?
You can catch me every Wednesday with you and John talking Star Wars. My boy Vader back there on Han Shot First. We currently going through the Andor show, and then every Thursday on our sister station on Bite Size Sports, you can catch me talking NBA basketball. I will make my loving return this week, so lots to talk about. Pacers, baby.
Yeah, that is right. You can catch me also on Thursdays and Wednesdays. On top of that, of course, we have the Clout Route right here. Beautiful art done by
It's beautiful.
Mel Seeley. Check it out. Tuesdays and Sundays, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch me Monday nights at 8 on Carnage Unleashed. We just earlier this week interviewed Justin from Sublife, so go check that out. A Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert who also runs his own gym. So go ahead and check that out. And until then, we will see you next time. You dweebs, stay safe out there. Take care.